right. It's early, dude. It's 6 a.m. We have basic bitch patch notes for Dark and Darker, which we'll go over, but the more important stuff has to do with the court case. I wrote a tweet about this, like, I don't know, probably 6 hours or so after the verdict came out, something like that. Long and short of it is the Supreme Court, what they call the Supreme Court, which is a tribunal of judges that heard the appeal having to do with the original judgment about Nexon versus Ironmace, saying that more or less Ironmace didn't infringe on any copyright, didn't actually steal any IP, but they were guilty of basically remembering that they had worked for Nexon, and the court found that they wouldn't have been able to make Dark and Darker had they not worked at Nexon on Project P3 prior. So more or less like the foundational, like, basic bitch building blocks of what P3 was turned into Dark and Darker, even though, like, Dark and Darker was scrapped. They didn't actually steal anything, but, like, the processes that they implemented to build, like, Dark and Darker's base construction of the game, like dark walls and, you know, all that shit. The court said about 15% of Dark and Darker was attributed to working at Nexon, like the team working at Nexon, just based on, like, its general construction. So because of that 15%, they changed the verdict from the 8.5 billion won, Korean won, to 5.7 billion, which I think works out to just shy of like $4 million US dollars instead of whatever it was before, 6.5 billion. They ended up owing 4 million-ish. That being said, Ironmace, when we did the Q&A with them, the last Q&A before the last wipe happened, Terry and SDF both said almost simultaneously that they had paid the bill already. So they get, in essence, the equivalent of like a tax refund to the tune of like $2 million bucks, I guess. That's more or less what it comes down to. Apparently, and this is according to a thing that SDF told Vincent like last week, a handful of days ago, 4 days ago, something like that. Vincent apparently asked SDF if it was done, and SDF came back and said that it wasn't like final, because there's a round 3, I guess, that they can enter into. But my understanding is they have about 11 days from the date of this judgment. They have 11 days to like go into the a final round, like, you know, take one more shot at it, where it goes to like some ultra Supreme Court or some shit. But my understanding is it's very unlikely that the higher court will overturn the lower court's ruling. That's, I get kind of the gist of it. There is still a matter in court for criminal stuff where I guess SDF has to still sit for a criminal-related criminal trial that has to do with his using of a server at his home, because that was in like the original paperwork filing. There was a period of time where during COVID, SDF was given permission to work from home using a server that he had set up at his house so that he could send files back and forth to work on them from home because COVID happened. At the tail end of 2020, going into 2021, they rescinded that permission, but he continued to work on the game that he was working on at Nexon at home anyway, for a period of like, I want to say like 3 months, 4 months, something like that. It was from like January to April of 2021. Even though like a couple of forensics labs and everything, they basically harvested all of the data that they could from both Nexon and Ironmace to compare everything going back from like day one of inception of the companies, and said that there wasn't any theft, there was no IP theft, there was no source code used, like everything was independent of each other, more or less. But there's still the matter of that like one piece of his using the server from his house. So I guess he's still got to stand trial for that, maybe. But all of the other charges that they attempted to like levy against him all got thrown out. So there's that. The implementation of lighting monsters and traps is completely different. Choi personally appeared at the final hearing, arguing that the copyright infringement claims were unfair and that their goal was simply to create a medieval fantasy game. So why does all this matter? So more or less what happened here is that it expanded upon copyright law because there's a lot of reciprocity when it comes to international stuff. And more or less this broadens the level of protections that companies have over their own like IP. Because never before has there been a situation where a company was or individuals had been found to be like quote unquote guilty, partially guilty, whatever, and taken to task for, monetarily taken to task for remembering that they worked on a prior project because a new project that they started looked similar or was similar to the last one. And the key phrase in anything when it comes to this stuff is what's called substantially similar, meaning that it has to be so similar to the originating work that it's undeniably, you know, the same. One would have had to have been derived from the other kind of thing, or is a copy of the other. The court specifically said that they were not substantially similar, but because they remembered working at Nexon, it was in violation of what they referred to as a quote-unquote trade secret. So it broadened the protections that companies have over their intellectual property, and we'll probably end up seeing like new lawsuits come out saying that like, well, they worked at Blizzard and now they started off this other offshoot company, and because it looks really similar to World of Warcraft or whatever, they could try to like, you know, milk cash out of people for it. That's kind of it. So yeah, that's kind of everything, dude. Or anyway, patch notes, I guess. So these are really short. They did a whole bunch of bug fixes that had to do with not interacting with the corpses, Skelly archers getting summoned by the Lich, continuing fire from a distance without repositioning when switching targets to a new player. They wouldn't move. The corpse of the Tidewalker monster appear with different poses upon replication. There was a thing about like movement too. They made the boat faster or something. Yeah, boat move speed. Reduced potion of clarity duration. So that's an interesting one. Animation delay when the club hits an enemy has been increased. So this means that they're slowing down the club attacks, like subsequent club attacks. I don't know by how much, but it seems like they're adding like fractions of seconds onto the swing time, so it becomes a little bit slower whenever you... So this is like when you hit something and it gets sticky and it has like that little pause when you're swinging through shit. So this slows down like subsequent attacks on the combos, which is good because club has kind of been meta for a while, with especially if barbs. Animation delay for Horseman's Axe, Hatchet, Viking Sword, and Q-Staff if it hits an enemy has been reduced. These are being sped up, which is interesting. Q-Staff getting a buff is kind of dope. I like that. Action speed debuff has been added when taking damage from giant jellyfish and ghoul. So this is interesting too. Instead of like the ghoul just giving you a dot, like that bleed attack that they give you that stacks up, giving you an action speed debuff kind of sucks. All right, buff applied by Nightmare Wisp to other monsters now also buffs action speed in addition to move speed. This is interesting too. So Nightmare Wisp just became like public enemy number one whenever you see them around, because not only do they clear your buffs, but they buff everybody else. Sorcerer's innate talent now grants 15% additional casting speed when casting unarmed, and its magical power has been adjusted from 7 to 5. So this has always been about casting speed, not so much about magic power. This is I'm good with the 15%. Oh yeah, and they updated to a new version of Unity, hopefully improving frame rate and load times, blah, 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 blah. So maybe it's more optimized. I don't know. Unity 5 is, or not Unity, Unreal. Unreal 5 is kind of a shitty. So like with how a lot of it works, I never felt like Dark and Darker ran all that bad, save for a couple of rooms that, you know, the frame rate would drop off a little bit, but I guess we'll see. Also, they're doing a new arena season. I think December 19th. Is that right? December 19th. Players who reach 2200 in Arena MMR will only be able to queue solo. This feature may be adjusted. The gear limit for Arena season will be capped at Epic Gear, and only self-found items will be retained upon a loss. So they're going back to self-found Arena in Arena Season 8, and then they're saying 2200 Arena MMR will only be able to queue solo. This is a really interesting change, because it's trying to get away from like the pre-made stomping everyone. Except the game only has like 4,000 or 5,000 concurrent players at peak time right now. So the likelihood that dudes are going to be able to just queue snipe each other is still pretty high. Although there's no guarantee you're going to end up on the same team. I mean, if you're queuing at the same time with 3 people, there's a pretty good chance that like 2 of the 3 of you are going to be end up on the same team together. And honestly, if you got together a large enough group of people, you could probably win trade, which would be kind of fucked. But you know, they'll have to deal with that, I guess. I'm cool with purple item cap. I think that's kind of dope, actually. I'm good with that. We saw like what the tournament could do with gamers, man. Like with the tournament that happened, I don't know, like a month and a half ago. I thought that was great, actually, because even in Blue Gear you saw some crazy damage spikes, and I think people that have like well optimized stuff in Arena Purples, you'll probably see some sick plays and stuff. if you have a good coordinated team with decent gear. But we plan to use these remaining arena test seasons to prepare for release of the official arena season, including rewards coming with the next wipe. So they're talking about adding like actual rewards for PvP in the next wipe. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like they're not working so hard on like a lot of balance stuff. It looks like it's just bug fixes, and then they're going to be doing content pushes for whenever the next wipe is going to be, which I estimate would be like January-ish, right? Because, I mean, the last wipe was 2.5 months ago, so hopefully by the end of this month going into January, they'll be able to like kick something off here. Yeah, they said a special arena event too. Yeah, maybe it'll be an artifact arena, I guess. Be kind of cool. I wish that they would just do, like, if they wanted to do an artifact arena, I wish they would be able to categorize an item to just say, like, all right, pick the artifact that you want to roll with and just have it marked so that it's like an arena-only artifact, and you can't, like, bring it into, like, the normal game. So that way, like, people could still play with the cool shit, but not end up having it be game-breaking because you'd only be able to, like, fuck with it in arenas. I don't know. Even if it was just for, like, the last, weekend of the wipe or the season or whatever. Yeah, no, you can't trade it, can't drop it, just be able to like run around and play with it and give people the ability to see what it feels like. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, adjusted the audible range of players underwater. They changed some blade hand animations. They added they condensed the character select screen so that you see more characters on the screen at once. Yeah, it's kind of looks like kind of it. Performance optimizations for Blue Maelstrom. So I mean, it's a little performance update, nothing crazy, really minor changes, but I don't know. We'll see what they do with the next content update. I know everybody's, like, a lot of people are going to be like, game dead, whatever, dead game, etc., etc., etc. Fuck, I think I saw a YouTube video that somebody posted with, like, how Dark and Darker died, or whatever. And they're like, okay, whatever. They're still working, dude. And, like, the game's unique. If it wasn't unique, there would be clones of it already, and every clone fails. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see what they come up with next.